today's interview is a really special one. I'm going to be talking with Kevin Maas, and Kevin fractured his ankle 2 years ago. And I've known Kevin for almost that long, and I have to tell you that this interview is really special. And what is going to Kevin share with you can really help you out. Because if you are suffering or if you're scared of AVN or avascular necrosis, then this interview is for you. So Kevin, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy because, in this fractured ankle community, especially fractured ankle community, even though avascular necrosis can happen also in hip and in the rest of the body, right. I know that there is so much talking about AVN and people are really suffering. So I'm extremely happy that you found the time to join me because I know your story is amazing. So Kevin, you fractured your ankle. Like I said, you fractured your ankle 2 years ago. That was in 2015. Can you share what actually happened and what kind of fracture you had?
Yeah. I was on holiday in Romania and I was hiking because I'm an outdoorsman. I go camping, hiking, all those kinds of things. And I left the hostel that morning just to go on a 6 or 8 kilometer hike, nothing too crazy. And little did I know, I came to a pretty technical portion of the hike, and I just lost my footing. It was around a cliff essentially, and so I lost my footing and fell down into the ravine and fractured my talus and my wrist and a couple other bones. But the talus was by far, the worst injury. It was the ankle bone was dislocated out of the joint and the fracture was displaced. It was a Hawking type 3 fracture. If anyone else is Googling all the Hawking type fractures, it was type 3, meaning that it was dislocated, displaced, and the only step worse than my fracture is when it breaks the skin and actually comes out. So It was displaced probably 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters. It was a very large displacement based on what the physician, when I got back to the States, was telling me. So it was, if you're out there and you have a bad ankle and like really bad, you're thinking, oh my gosh, but mine has to be worse. Unless your bone popped out of your ankle, it probably wasn't worse than mine. So there's hope. There's hope.
So you didn't have operation in Romania? You actually went back to the States and have the operation there?
I actually had surgery in Romania. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the surgeon reset my ankle. He came in on the inside of my ankle and reset it and put 2 screws in it. So.
And then going back to United States and you met your doctor and what did he say about the surgery, what they done to your ankle?
This is where the story gets a little, a little scary. We didn't know the extent. I hadn't Googled avascular necrosis. I hadn't Googled this fracture or anything like that. I was just trying to get home, and they told me I needed surgery because sometimes they worry about blood clots and blood flow down to your ankles. And so they needed to do it immediately. And I just scheduled a follow-up with an orthopedic surgeon here in the States. And we went to that appointment expecting, 6 weeks, then you start, partial weight bearing, 3/4, full weight bearing. And he gave us the prognosis, as I'm sure you can relate to, that he explained the Hawking signs. He explained how displaced it was. He told us very briefly about avascular necrosis and scared the heck out of us. I mean, we were terrified. I had no idea. And he specifically told me not to Google it. Of course I did. You read all this stuff about what can happen if it loses blood flow. And I'm sure the waiting is the worst part. I know you can relate to that. The waiting, because it takes, well, 4 to 6 weeks or more to see if the blood flow was compromised into the neck of the talus. So it was grim. It was really, really scary. Really
Yeah,
scary.
I can imagine, so when I got my prognosis for my talus bone, actually I don't remember a lot because I think that I was just deleting, it was going in and out, and I wasn't Googling anything because I just didn't want to fill my brain with anything negative. And there is a lot of negative stuff, as you can, yeah, as you know, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
So what did he say about the potential outcome? What could happen to you?
He said in my fracture type, and this is important for people who have a bad fracture and who think there's no hope. He told me, based on studies that have been performed throughout the X amount of years, he said with this type of fracture, statistically speaking, there's an 80 to mathematical certainty, 100%, that your blood flow is compromised. You will develop a vascular necrosis, and the talar dome will collapse, and you'll need more surgeries. You'll need an ankle fusion. He was preparing us. He said, statistically, this is going to happen to you. And that was
a bad thing. That was a really hard thing, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because, when we met, so I'm not sure it was already in 2015 or it was 2015.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when I remember the first video of yours that I found, and it was the video that you made, and it must have been right after I met with this surgeon, and I was looking for just inspiration or hope or someone who could relate to this experience. And I found your video about doctors want to give you, they don't want to give, they're preparing you for the worst case scenario. But if it's a 90% certainty, someone has to be the 10%. And I just remember that video, you talking about doctors, and I was like, oh my gosh, someone else is experiencing this. So that video was a series of, and then I tuned into your Periscope when you were periscoping and reading all your recovery. And that's when things really changed, to be completely honest. After I started doing visualization, I visualized every night before I went to bed, I visualized myself running again. I visualized blood actually flowing to my bone. I mean, I did that every single day. And before this, to back up, sorry if it's confusing, I had an MRI after my first appointment with a doctor who said, this is going to happen to you almost certainly. I had my second follow-up, I had an MRI, and the Hawking sign was starting to change, meaning, I don't even know if you knew this, Maya. They were detecting a loss of blood flow in my talus. So that's when I started finding your videos. That's when I went and got a second opinion. I visualized every night. I started eating healthy. I mean, I've always been healthy, but I did kale, I did cinnamon, I did cayenne pepper, you name it. I did lemon juice, I did green tea, I did anything to reduce the inflammation and increase the healing in my body, along with the visualization, along with thinking positive, right?
Yeah.
And you always say, and it's so true, that your body follows your mind. And whatever you want to attribute it to, if you want to attribute it to the diet, you want to attribute it to positive thinking, a higher power, I can't explain why. But I went into the doctor's 4 weeks later. He took another MRI, and he could never tell that the blood flow was compromised. He had no idea. I think in his 30 years of practicing medicine, I think he was even shocked. It was not what he was expecting.
Probably this is not what he usually sees because, you know, like you said, you already had the beginning of creeping avascular necrosis in. So, of course, 4 weeks later, you would expect that your bone got even worse. And, you know, I didn't know that at the time. You told me that, I think, a year later. And I have to say that you brought tears into my eyes because, you know, avascular necrosis, and I know how many people are suffering because of that. And I know that, you know, even though second and third and fourth operation can be successful, a lot of the times also people have problems even after joint fusion or after replacement or whatever. Right. So, you know, your story is that miraculous story. I don't know, like you said, whatever, you know, you managed to do this in just 4 weeks.
It's incredible. There's hope. There's hope for, you know, people who have been injured seriously. And I 100% believe in the mind, as you do, the mind, body, spirit connection. And how can it not be connected, right? How can it not? How can your diet not be related to the way you're feeling and the way your body heals itself? And chance, right? I mean, what's the worst that happens? It doesn't work. It's make you stronger person.
Yeah, and you know that video that you mentioned that you saw about the doctors and what I was talking, I still know which video that is because looking back right now, it's just, you know, it was beginning of my English speaking videos and it was just horrible, you know, my presentation and everything. But, you know, I gave the information out, you found it. And yeah, it's just, you know, I am so for doctors and we need doctors. And they're amazing because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't have my screws in my talus bone. You wouldn't have surgery. We wouldn't have a lot of things.
Right.
But the thing is that, yeah, doctors don't know everything. And especially about mind-body connection, which is extremely important.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like you said, you know, and like we both know, avascular necrosis is not an easy thing. And when it happens, it can be really devastating for the person that this is happening to them. So what happened next? So that was actually after 4 weeks, you actually realized that you don't have avascular necrosis anymore. And what happened next?
After, let's see. So I was so the accident was August 6th. I had surgery the 8th. I was non-weight bearing until November. So I was non-weight bearing for about 4 months.
Wow.
I slowly was able to, after the fracture was completely healed and the avascular necrosis was gone, dissipated, I was able to at least get it out of the boot and start doing physical therapy, non-weight bearing. And then gradually, I was probably fully weight bearing by January or February. It was very, very slow process. And then I think I lost my boot in probably March time frame. And I mean, little by little, it's everything you talk about too. You know, even if you don't have AVN, you have to do your exercises every single
day.
Every day. I mean, I did my PT. I took time off work to recover. I'm fortunate enough that I was able to do that. And I went to my physio twice a week and did stuff on my own every single day.
So you were using crutches and you were in a moon boot for 7 months.
I was in a boot from August until February, so about 6 or 7 months.
6-7 months, and then slowly transition to partial and then full weight bearing, which usually takes another month and a half. I don't know how fast it went for you.
Yeah, probably about 2 months from partial to full weight bearing, and then even after that, You know, you can walk a little bit, then you can walk a little more, then you can walk a little more. And now I'm to the point where I can go, my big thing is, you know, I can go out traveling or go somewhere hiking on the weekends, and I can walk or hike 5, 6, 7, 8 miles in a day. I mean, by the end of it, even if I had a perfect ankle after 8 miles, you know, your feet are going to hurt. So, so I've been so fortunate that I still get to do the things I love to do. You know, I love to be outside. I love to hike. I love to cycle. I love just going for walks, and
Yeah.
to have that back, and I'm thankful.
So you actually already mentioned, but I'm going to ask you again, just, you know, because this is such an important information. And what do you think made the biggest difference in your recovery?
You're gonna call me. You're gonna say I'm just teasing you, but my biggest mental my support system at home, and the support I had through you. I mean, just having someone who understands what you've been through is so powerful. But doing the work, there's no easy way out of physical therapy. You're gonna be sore. You're gonna hurt. You might even cry, but you have to do the work if you want the results. You know, if you want the best possible outcome, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Trust me, trust us. It's so worth it once you get, you know.
Yeah.
There's no finish line. We're still recovering, but you know, the finish line keeps moving out, you know, a little further, but it's ongoing, and you have to do the work.
You talked about your diet, that you changed your diet or actually start eating even healthier, that you were doing your mental exercises and visualization. And you talked about physiotherapy, and you know, I think that this is a magic trio, because if you skip one part, and especially with injury like you had, that can be really, you know, Russian roulette, that you're playing Russian roulette.
Right.
Yeah.
And you talk too a lot about inflammation, right? And how can your body heal if there's chronic inflammation in your body? It's you know, I don't drink too much anyway, but you know, I completely stopped drinking alcohol. I even stopped having caffeine because I was worried about that effects on my body. And you really have to have those three in order to give you, even if you don't have an amazing outcome, or you're not back to normal, which anyone who's had a serious injury will tell you, you'll never be back to normal, but you can try really hard to get as close as you can, and to give yourself the best possible chances. Like you said, you have to do all three: physical therapy, the diet, and the mind part, visualization, or if you're religious and if you go to church, or whatever you need to do to keep your mind, healthy and positive. It's all benefit.
Your ankle right now is, you're still recovering, of course. You are not completely back to normal, but how is your ankle now?
It's good. It's good. Like I said, I get up in the morning, I do my ABCs in bed, I do a little stretching. I get, it's a little, anyone will tell you morning stiffness with any injury is normal, but it's good. I don't hardly think about it anymore. With the weather, I don't know if this happens to you, depending on the weather, it can predict if a storm's coming in, and it'll, be a little sore, and maybe I'll notice it some days. But honestly, it's better than I could have ever imagined. It doesn't distract me or bother me, and I don't have any pain. I don't have chronic pain, which some people do after injuries suffer. And I continue to eat healthy and do my physical therapy, right?
Yeah.
So that absolutely, I'm sure, plays a...
Kevin, I'm so extremely happy for you, really, because, when I start with my work, when I started sharing this information, I said to myself, you know, if I can change one person's life, I did my job. And, you know, your story here is just an amazing example what can actually happen when you combine everything. So what was the hardest thing mentally about your recovery?
Oh my gosh. That was the hardest part, the mental part. If you break your talus, you're probably an athletic. I would guess you were rock climbing, right?
Yes.
So you're probably doing something active. My physician told me that there's a lot of people who are in car accidents because they're depressing the brake and they're articulating their foot, which is how you break your talus, for the most part. So if you have a broken talus, you're probably an active person. So that was the hardest part, was trying to figure out what I was going to do, who I was going to be if I couldn't hike, if I couldn't camp, if I couldn't run, if I couldn't do all these things I love to do. The unknown, the waiting 4 weeks to get scans was very hard. It was very hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. And, you know, I asked this a few days ago in my support group, Facebook support group, Injury Recovery BFFs. I asked the same question: what is the hardest thing, you know, the toughest thing about recovery? And it's usually the same, you know, just I have to depend on others. I don't know what's going to happen. I have to wait. You know, it's always the same. And yes, this waiting, because you don't know what actually, if this that you are doing is actually working, right, or not.
Right.
And if you could go back in time and talk to Kevin 2 years ago, maybe right after you returned to the States, what would you advise yourself?
I love this question. To myself or anyone out there, don't sell yourself short. Give yourself, you are so much stronger than you think you are. You have so much fight in you, mentally, physically. Don't give up. I mean, be proud of every day you accomplish something. If you get an extra half a degree at physio, be happy, be proud. You know, that's amazing. Yeah, that's probably, I probably underestimated my grit and tenacity and perseverance, you know, to get through it. And that's so important. And I got that, you know, from my friends, from my family, from Maya, from these places. But you have it in you. You can do it. You absolutely can do it.
So would you tell yourself that don't give up, just fight it, and
don't give up without a fight?
Yeah.
Because even if the outcome isn't what you think it is, in hindsight, you'll be able to say you did all the physical therapy you were supposed to. You ate as healthy as you could. You visualize. I mean, if you do those things, you can't look back and have regrets. You did everything you possibly could, you know?
Yeah.
If you're not doing the physical therapy, if you're not maybe trying to eat healthy, then you might not be able to say that looking in the past. You know, you might want to. When I started physical therapy, I can't remember if it was you or my physical therapist, or maybe just something I read online, that a couple people said if they could go back and do their physical therapy over again, they said they wished they would have given it a little bit more, right? Because it's hard, it's painful, and you're afraid you're going to hurt yourself, right? I was constantly nervous I was going to hurt myself in physical therapy, but you're with a professional, you communicate how you're feeling, if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling stretching, you know, all those things. But if they give you the go ahead to push it to the limit, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You'll be sore, but you'll be happy.
And recovery is such a mental game, actually, you know, because physical body, recovers pretty fast. Well, depends on what kind of fracture you had, what kind of injury you had. But there is that mind playing game that, you know, you are so scared and your memory is still full of pain and soreness, and you don't want to push it too much. And you know that you can do it, but you are scared. So definitely, yeah, believe that your body is capable. And when you get the green light for weight bearing, you're ready.
Right.
You know, I believe, and you know, you've been with me right now for 2 years, and you know that I'm talking constantly about it. I believe that accidents happen for a reason. Yeah. So what do you think, why this had to happen to you? Why do you think that you needed this experience?
That's a great question too. For me, in my life, I live in the States. I actually live in Ohio. And since I went to university, I have lived far away from my family. So I spent about 8 or 9 years traveling with work and all these different things. And I ended up moving back to Ohio after my accident. And then I was still nervous even after everything with the physical therapy. I didn't want to be too far away from my surgeons or my physicians. So I stayed in Ohio, in Columbus, which is just an hour and a half from my parents' place. And what happened throughout that time, my sister-in-law had her baby, my nephew. He's 16 months now. And I couldn't imagine not being in his life and not being his fun uncle and babysitting him and all these things with family. And family's everything. Family supported me through my accident and after my accident and still today. So there's good that comes out of everything. And I like to think even if my outcome wasn't what it is today, there's so much to get excited about. There's so much to live for. There's so much to do, and your mind will get the absolute best of you if you let it. You know, I'm sure some of the things I was looking up, I mean, people can probably, you know, I was looking up all terrain mobility devices that I could use to go hiking. And, you know, the mind is just an incredibly powerful tool, or something that can really get in the way. So don't let your mind get in the way. Some of the places your mind goes when you're waiting, just sitting around waiting. But
would you say that this is your advice to someone? If you would give an advice to someone about their recovery, would you say that this is a really important thing, or the most important thing, what you just said about the mind? And that,
you know, I think most important is doing the work and doing the diet and the mind and thing. But my other advice, is the worst case scenario you've made out in your head is not going to happen. You know, you have to be positive. You have to be realistic. I mean, even if I had more procedures and all these things, I mean, you can still go hiking. You can still, you know, I could go kayaking. I could do canoeing. You know, I fixated on all the things I couldn't do. And even if my outcome was not positive as it is, there are lots of things you can still do. And of course, I didn't see that at the time, because you're focused on, what if I can't run again? What if I can't hike again? So keep in perspective that the scenarios you've made out in your head are probably worse than what's going to happen. And even if it is as bad as your mind's thinking, again, don't underestimate the power of your resilience and the power, you know, to find other things you enjoy doing or you like doing, or invest in other interests you have. it's going to be, you know, I think about what would I want someone to tell me, and it's going to be okay. You know, no matter what happens, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's really scary, and it's hard, and you might not want to hear that because you probably want someone to just recognize that it's hard and you're suffering, and that's true too. You could be, and you probably are, you know, probably like we did, but you're going to be okay.
Oh, I love this, you know, that actually, yeah, explore what kind of options maybe you have, because like you said, you were scared what my life would look like if I wouldn't be able to do these things. And
Right.
I think it's a really good advice. Yeah, know that everything will be okay. Doesn't matter what kind of outcome
Right.
there will be.
Become your new normal. You know, it's like my new normal is I get up in the morning and I, you know, instead of getting up at 6:15, I get up at 6:05 because I do PT for 10 minutes. I couldn't imagine having to do that, you know, 5 years ago, but it's part of my routine. It's part of my day, and
Yeah.
it's just normal now. You know,
Yeah.
everything you can get through almost anything.
Awesome. Kevin, I'm so extremely happy for you and grateful for your story and sharing your story, because, you know, there are people that need to hear this, and I know that your story will help them, because, you know, you were there, and in 4 weeks everything changed for you, in just 4 weeks. And this is just the thing. Our bodies are so amazing if we give them everything that they need.
Absolutely. And we're putting good things on the internet, because when I was recovering, all I was looking for was somebody who recovered. You know, all you find is the bad stuff, like you've said in your videos too. So, you know, I can honestly say I would not be where I am today without you. So thank you. I'm so appreciative. It is just such a bizarre, funny thing. You were in New Zealand when we met. Now you're in Mexico. We're closer. But it's like, you know, to have someone that has played such a big role in my recovery. I always tell people say, oh my gosh, you must have been so. I said, yeah, I had my parents, my family, my friends, my surgeon, my physical therapist, and Maya. I mean, it was huge. So you're doing such amazing work for people.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really grateful. And, you know, yeah, I'm just grateful and happy. And you know that when I'm happy, when I'm extremely happy, I start crying. So right now I'm just, you know, at the edge of tears. So thank you so much, Kevin. That was awesome. And thank you so much for sharing this. And if anyone has any kind of question regarding avascular necrosis, please post your questions down below or just share your thoughts. We would love to see them. And Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much.